I'm Gabrielle Ruth Little, your host of Girl Talk Pod. Join me on my many adventures as I navigate through all the shit life has to offer. The rule here is no expectations. Not low expectations, but no expectations. You never know what you're going to hear from this 20-something-year-old who believes in being a student for life. Whether it's through a solo episode just hanging out, or with a badass guest. Welcome to Girl Talk Pod. Let's talk. Guys, hello. It's been a long time. It's been a minute. You're probably like, Gabrielle, where the fuck have you been? And I've been doing some fun, exciting things for the podcast. If you're watching this, you can see we're in the brand new renovated podcast studio in my house, in my office, and I had so much fun with this project. I painted this wall behind me, got new furniture, got a new setup. So I am just so excited to have a great visual space, and it just feels so much more organized. So I will definitely be more motivated and inclined to get my content out on time and just build a bunch of content for you guys. And during this break, which I talked about when I first started the podcast, how I wanted things for so long to be perfect, but I had to make a decision that things are not going to be perfect and we're going to have to just learn to pivot. And that's exactly what I did. So the last 6 weeks was rebranding. I had a photo shoot for the podcast. I got a new logo. I renovated the space. And I was really just trying to think of where I wanted to take Girl Talk Pod, which direction I wanted to go into. I know at the beginning I was like, this is for everybody. And I just felt like when I was trying to decide on what to talk about, it was very hard for me because I was like, I want this to be applicable to everybody. But not everyone's going through the same experiences that I have, and I'm not going through the same experiences as everyone else. So I still do not necessarily have a niche, but what I have decided was that a big part of who I am and what I emulate and what I am trying to do on this platform is surrounded by mental health in a sense. Your mental health, your physical health, your overall wellness, and everything that you do. Friendships, relationships, sexual intimacy, career, which keeps that broad scope of who I am and all of the adventures that I go on in between. But I don't want to necessarily label this as a mental health podcast. I would like to, if I were to label it, a overall wellness. This is a wellness space. But you can call it whatever the fuck you want. Just come and listen to me talk about all things. And that's just what I've been kind of doing the last 6 weeks. And it's been great. It's been rejuvenating. And I'm really excited again for what the future holds for Girl Talk Pod. So there's been a few things that have happened in the last 6 weeks. I still am working on the Tulum episode that's going to be posted. I just wanted to come and do this first, and then we're going to post the Tulum episode, and you're going to see all the debauchery. You're going to see the partying, the food, the girls. We had the best time. And you got a little pre-episode, Maid of Honor from Hell, the last number 8, the last episode. So if you haven't listened to that, go listen. It's a really good episode. And yeah, something else that has been going on in the last few weeks is I am single. I am no longer in a relationship, and I'm smiling right now because I have dealt with all of the grieving and the mourning and the anger and all of that. And I've gone to therapy. I saw a hypnotherapist, which we're going to talk about in its own episode. We're going to do a breakup, healing, my journey, my experiences, kind of what happened, what went wrong. We're going to do an entire episode on that. But I did not want to talk about that today just because I'm still kind of healing and going through some things. But I am single. And I'm telling you right now, this is going to be the best thing that's ever happened to Girl Talk Pod. Because one of the biggest themes of why my relationship ended was there was a lot of insecurities around me being me. And that's a very, very broad. And again, we're going to get into that another time. But it was I never felt like I could come on this platform and truly talk about the things that I wanted to talk about the way that I wanted to talk about them. Everything was kind of censored and it was walking on eggshells because I didn't want to make anyone else uncomfortable. I understand when you're in a relationship, you make compromises and you also have to protect the image of the relationship with your partner, right? It's a partnership, it's a relationship. You decide to be in it with them. So you have to respect the things that they like and want and accept and expect. There's always compromise. You should never feel controlled or marginalized or whatever. You should never feel like your sparkle is dulled and you cannot do the things that you truly want to do, because that just means that that's not your person. And that took a lot of time for me to realize. So again, we're going to talk about that and it's in an episode in itself, but I just wanted to give you a little update because again, this is the best thing that could have happened for Girl Talk Pod. And today, to jump right into it, we're talking about sex. We're talking about sex, baby. God, good thing I didn't choose singing as a hobby. But yes, today we're going to talk about sex. We're going to talk about, and I'm not talking about we're not going to get raunchy. We're not going to get gory. We're not going to get in the details of all the things that have to do with the physical act of having sex, but we're going to talk about the things that kind of work around it. And I really wanted to talk about my experiences with sexual intimacy, especially after being abused as a child, and what sex looks like in my current life, what sex has looked like in my entire life, and just some of the struggles that I've had around sex and being intimate with someone else physically. So let's get right into it. Sexual intimacy, and everyone prioritizes this differently, right? And I think that women and men have both two complete different ideologies when it comes to sex sometimes. Not everybody. You have very sensitive and intuitive and intentional men out there that really look at sex as a connection, something that can be considered spiritual. There's some men that are like that. But I feel like most men, sex is very physical. Women, on the other hand, it can be very physical. It can be entirely physical. But I think that women are definitely more sensitive when it comes to sex and that connection and the effects that it can have on their mental health and what it truly means to them. So sexual intimacy to me is a very high priority in a relationship because of one, my experiences with being abused and that being my first sexual experience that was unconsensual, wasn't my choice. So I got that stripped away from me. I didn't get the choice of, I'm going to choose to be intimate with this person. So that caused obviously a lot of issues as I was building a relationship with sex and being intimate with someone else. So the first thing that did growing up that I realized was it created a feeling of validation through sexual intimacy. I always felt like that was a way to feel wanted by a man, and beyond the fact of yes, they want to have sex with me, but I thought that was a way to keep a man around, and I thought that was something that I needed to do, and I was and this started when I was young. I was definitely racy. I lost my virginity in high school. I explored talking about sex when I was younger than I would like, but there's no rule book and there's no timeline. But obviously, I think there's a level of maturity that comes along with being sexually intimate. But I was, I was in high school and it happened, and don't have any regrets, and I can only hopefully be a great example for my children and my younger siblings. One day or today or in the past, they've witnessed my fuck ups, I would say, and I hope that they learn from them. So again, no regrets, but I was definitely very curious and racy at a very young age compared to probably normal. I was, learning about sex online or researching it, or like watching videos and talking to people about it, and like talking to older guys because I knew that was kind of what they were into. I was trying to explore it. So that was already kind of ingrained in my being, that I wanted to learn more about sex, and I wanted to, get that validation, because that's, what I thought. That's self-esteem, self-confidence was very low. I just wanted some validation, and I wanted to feel wanted and desired. So I leaned into that. And I still have struggled with that in my relationships. I've struggled with it in my last relationship, when our sex was off and I just felt like it was a me thing, and turned out that, my partner was just tired, or, they weren't feeling very confident, or they weren't feeling well. And I took that super personally. So that's something I'm working on as a whole, is trying not to take other people's things personally, and trying to empathize and see what else could be going on in their life. And that's way beyond sex. That's in arguments and, feeling like your friend's acting some type of way to you. That's a tangent, but I'm trying to be better about that in all aspects of my life, and just kind of worry about what I can control and what's really here in front of me, instead of creating certain things. But that was kind of, again, the first thing that I experienced when it came to sexual intimacy with other people, is that needing for validation. And that all comes with, just really getting to know yourself, knowing your body. And as your self-esteem and confidence grow, then you don't really rely on someone else to make you feel sexy. But also, it's nice to, I'm not saying your partner should never make you feel sexy, or your partner shouldn't excite you in those ways. I'm just more of saying, try not to create things that aren't necessarily there, and try to lean into some of your understandings of oh, I know I'm sexy. My body's great. I don't know what's considered good at sex, but I know that I'm have fun in the bedroom and all that stuff. So just try to lean into that when you're maybe feeling, not as confident, or you're kind of questioning your own worth when it comes to pleasing someone else. And yeah, so just focus on yourself, queen. And so another thing that kind of stemmed from that abuse is also triggers in certain sexual situations. I'm better about this now because I've done a lot of growth, or I've had a lot of growth. I've done a lot of therapy, exploring sex and what's comfortable with me and what's not. My number one thing is communication. If it's with a partner, one night stands, if you're having them, are a little different. Obviously, you don't need to open all your traumas and things to someone that you don't really know that well. But I'm more talking about when you're in a relationship. It's really important to communicate these things, because they can't read your mind. And I think that for me, especially, sexual intimacy is driven by my mental state. So I would just suggest communicating that, because I've had those experiences where certain things just triggered me and, just didn't bring me to the right place. And I just try to ride it out. And then I ended up getting into like a little messy headspace, and it turned me off completely, like to where I didn't want to have sex for a long time. And that's kind of where I'm at with my sexual intimacy being influenced by my abuse. I'm still learning a lot about that because, again, I didn't go to therapy. I didn't explore these things when I was younger. So as I grew up and started going to therapy myself and doing reflection, I'm still trying to figure out what my triggers are because of my trauma. And that's not just with sex, that's in other things too, how I operate in a relationship, how my friendships are, codependency. I'm still learning a lot of those things. So as I develop more knowledge and self-awareness and that, I'll be able to speak more. But those are the two things that I have realized that have been affected by my abuse. So the next thing kind of plays off of what I was saying earlier about mental health and how sexual intimacy can influence your mental health, because it has mine a lot, to the point where I was in a relationship with someone and he had some stuff going on that was causing him not to be able to have sex. We didn't have sex for almost 4 months out of our relationship, and it drove me to starting therapy again, because my self-esteem just took such a hit from that. And that's like when I was talking about communicating, whether you're having struggles with intimacy or your partner's having struggles with intimacy, you both need to be communicating that to each other. Because if you just don't want to have sex, or if you're just not having sex with your partner because you've got some stuff going on up here, if you don't communicate that, your partner's going to probably think it's them. And then their mental health, as much as I'm promoting like lean into your own self-confidence, like if your partner all of a sudden just doesn't want to have sex with you because if they've got stuff going on in here, but you have no idea that's going on, you're going to take that personally. And because I have, and it can just do bad things for your mental health, because I've experienced it. So when I talk about mental health and sex, something that comes to mind is body, not necessarily dysmorphia, but issues with body image. And I've taken that to heart because I feel like my partner's desire or want to have sex with me is in direct correlation with how I look. And I look back at certain situations and I just give myself like so much grace, but I also feel bad for her that she took it so personally and took it out on her body image, because again, her partner was going through something that didn't necessarily have anything to do with her. But I struggle with this because, it's a very vulnerable state. You're naked, completely naked and exposed with someone else. And so obviously you are worried about how you look and if you look sexy. And I've talked to men about this. They don't give a fuck, honestly. Like, we're worried about what we look like on top and bent over and all the things, like, and we just are so aware of how our body looks, obviously, because we look at it every single day. But men typically do not give a fuck about the little things that we think they do. The little cellulite, the little tummy rolls, like all of that is, men really don't care. And if that's something that you worry about, I would just try to harness that energy of men really don't care and just like focus on having a good time. Because I've been turned off in situations because I just do not feel sexy. And even if my partner is complimenting me, I still will just, like, he's complimenting me. He's saying that I look great. He's saying that I look sexy. And I'm worried about him not thinking I look sexy because of all this cloudy bullshit in my brain. So I would just be present in the moment, just focus on like building that connection and just like having fun, because I have definitely caused arguments and unnecessary just crap because of the things that I was creating in my own mind. So just again, going back to leaning into that self-confidence, and I would also suggest just being present in that moment, because our minds do control so much of our sexual intimacy. And another thing to play off of that is my mind, this is great. I don't know if this is crazy or new news to anyone else, but I have 100% belief that my mind controls my orgasms. Bear with me. Because I have experienced in sex where I'm feeling super sexy, I'm feeling like so good, I'm feeling so hot, and I will get off in about 5 seconds. And then there's other times where I'm doing the exact same thing, but it will never happen. And so I've experienced this through meditation, actually, that when like you just kind of relax your conscious mind and just really focus on grounding yourself and being in tune with how your body's feeling. That's kind of a trick that I've used during sexual intimacy or private intimacy when I'm exploring things myself. And I just challenge you to, if you're having sex and you're worried and you don't understand why you can't get off or why you can't get into it, I would just try to quiet that conscious mind up here in the front of the brain and try to just create some awareness in like the physical, and that just kind of brings you present. So that's something that I've done, and it's worked a lot, and it's crazy because I thought it was mechanical, but it was mental, and I am having a great time. I'm having a really good time. And to tie up, I guess, the mental health, the biggest thing is also just, expressing to your partner how you're feeling. Because if you do it a disservice to them, if you are dealing with things and you just kind of give them a cold shoulder, they might take it personally. Inversely too, if they're doing that to you, maybe bring it up and be like, hey, is there something kind of going on there that you want to talk about? Because I have expressed in a relationship that I was really struggling with our intimacy, whether it, felt like it was getting kind of routine or, I wanted to spice it up in some ways. And my partner did not take that very well. He was like, that's a shot to my manhood. And if that's what your man's doing, he's not your man's, because this should be a place of growth and vulnerability, and no one should ever make your needs feel too much. So that's something that I would be cautious of, is when you do express the things that, you're struggling with or that you want to improve, that you should have a partner that is receptive of that. And that'll come in time. That'll come with maturity and security. And, that's also, don't take it personal if it's coming back your way. If they are trying to spice up the bedroom and you're like, well, I thought everything was going great. Well, yeah, I mean, sex is a two-way street, right? Just because you think that it might be going well, and then they are trying to just like maybe try new things because that's what their body's exploring, then you reflect, assess if this is something that, yeah, I can do this, or if it's something that you're like, then they might not be for you. And I just think that sexual wellness is really important in relationships. It's not a priority to everybody, but it's a priority to me. And I think that communicating it and having a partner, and inverse myself being open to, adapting to the things that they want or what I want, is really important as well. So segue into the next thing I wanted to talk about is lulls in relationships. So I just kind of mentioned when things can get kind of routine, or we're not trying new things, or it can get kind of, just, yeah, I guess routine is going to be the best word to describe it, where it's like, this is, the time we start, the time we finish. These are the 3 positions that we're going to do in between. And that works for some people. I know that sex drive as you get older gets a little whack, and it's all dependent on the person. And I also know that obviously when you're first starting to date someone, things are spicier and things, are more exciting and they're new, and you're more inclined to like be a little freaky. And I understand that. And I personally think as you get to know someone more, that's when it should get freakier because you're more comfortable with them. But everyone has their preference. And so I do understand that. But I do think it's important to not get into this robotic kind of routine, because then it just doesn't bring for me personally, sex just isn't special then. It's just more of like a box that we're checking. Like, okay, we have sex. Yeah, we have sex. But like, are we really connected? Are we really like feeling, sensual? Are we feeling, that's just a priority to me. So there are times that happens in relationships. And I just, again, communication is really important. And then just exploring. Like the other night, I went and was just like looking up like ways to kind of spice it up in the bedroom. And I found like these 100 item lists of how you can spice things up in the bedroom and how to dirty talk and how to do all this. I'm not having sex right now, but one day I was just getting curious and like, how can I elevate my sexual experience? And if this is completely irrelevant to you and you're having an amazing time in the bedroom, go fuck yourself. Just kidding. I'm very happy for you. But that's all just personal preference and personal exploration. That's been so fun. And to play off the like personal exploration and like sex with a partner, let's talk about one-on-one. No, because that's 2 people. But like solo exploration of sex and all that. I think that it's so healthy for women to tap into self-pleasuring. Honestly, I didn't really do this I didn't do it. I didn't buy my first vibrator till I was like, okay, I guess age is not really good because I was having sex probably before the average, but well later into my sex life. And I just don't know why I never did, but I did. And it's honestly exploring myself and getting to know what I really like has made a lot of improvements in my sexual intimacy with a partner, because I know what makes me feel good, what doesn't make me feel good, and I can communicate that during sex, and I can overall elevate the experience. So I highly recommend trying it out if you haven't already. Google it. What should I start with? How, set the mood, get the setting right. I like to listen to music. I've got like these noise canceling headphones. I'll put it on. I'll light a candle. I have this like sleep blackout eye mask sometimes if I'm trying to get visual. Put it on. Just got to explore the certain things that you like, and you can research things, or if you want to ask me my routine, shoot me a DM. I'll send you everything that I use in my setup. And I just think it's so important to explore this because, if you're doing things just to please someone else, it's, you just can miss out on a lot. And I just think that sex overall has gotten a lot better for me as I've been able to explore what really makes me tick. So I talked about this earlier. Your needs are never too much when it comes to intimacy and, feeling safe and feeling desired and all of that. And don't let anyone ever make you feel like it's too much. And don't let anyone gaslight you when you're expressing these things and try to minimize them because they want to say that it's a shot at their masculinity or it makes them feel shitty. Like, people can express themselves, but it's like if they're not hearing you, communication is nothing without comprehension. So just don't let that happen to you because there's someone out there that's gonna check all your boxes and make you feel incredible. And they're out there. So if it's not your man that you're currently with, it's not your partner that you're currently with, don't settle and don't let someone else try to minimize the things that are important to you because they're so important. And sexual intimacy in that comfortability in a relationship is extremely important to prioritize. I guess to tie everything in a nice bow, I would just highly suggest that you do some self-reflection, do some, maybe write in a journal, what are my boundaries and standards when it comes to sex with a partner, and really just getting to know this is what I like and this is what I need. And you can always figure things out with people, but I think if you can do that work prior to, you can save yourself a lot of time and bad experiences by really having those boundaries and standards set, like, oh, this is what I like. And, it's never an issue to talk about it with someone. If you're going to be sexually intimate with someone, you should be able to talk to them about your standards and your boundaries in sex. And if they're like, whoa, I just wanted to get some, then maybe don't do that. Then don't waste your time. Don't let anyone enter your temple of a body if that's their mentality. And that's just one, if you want to have one night stands and you want to go get freaky, do you. But if sexual intimacy is something that you struggle with mentally and you've just found yourself in kind of like these cycles of like starting to have sex with somebody and then you realize they don't really like that stuff, and then it's like, I should have said something about it, or I don't really like this. I'm just trying to save you some regrets because I've had a lot of regrets when it comes to being intimate with someone else. So don't be afraid to share your standards after you've explored them and kind of figured out what those are. I have done that. Getting out of this relationship, that's been my number one mission, is just to really identify what my boundaries are in a relationship and what my standards are. And then for this episode's sake, sexually and intimately, I said it right the first time. That's two things that I've really focused on as well. And I just think communicating what you need in a relationship is never, or in a sexual relationship, is never too much. And just also being able to talk about like what makes you comfortable and also putting your needs first. Because as the people pleaser that I am, I have definitely put others' needs first before mine in the bedroom. And wouldn't it be so fun if you could have your cake and eat it too? Because I could imagine how that could be fun. That's all I have for today. I missed you guys so much. And I'm happy to be back on the pod. Next week, we are going to talk about standards and boundaries. See how I wrapped that up with that? I might have done this a few times, 9 times exactly. And we're going to talk about standards and boundaries setting in relationships, friendships, family, because boundaries is a very new thing for me. And we're going to talk about all of that next week. And that's all I have. welcome back to Girl Talk Pod. I missed y'all again so much. If you're watching, isn't my wall so cute? I'll see you next Tuesday, and I can't wait to chat then. Bye.